All right, Sean Whalen on the Fishbowl. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking the time to come swim in the bowl with me.
I love it. The water's warm. It's colder when I did dive down towards the pebbles, but I'm okay up at the top.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I'd like to just say I'm a huge fan of your work,
Thank you.
and I've been following your career for a long time. Probably all started with The People Under the Stairs,
Uh-huh.
which I do want to ask you about. But
Sure.
the first question I usually like to ask my guests on the show is being an actor, what got you interested in film?
Um, well, I was always into theater and in high school, elementary school, community plays, high school plays, school plays. Um, and it kind of came down to economics. My dad lived out in San Francisco, and he wanted to pay less than he had two other kids in college at the time, and he just said, "Hey, why don't you check out UCLA?" So I did, and I actually really liked it. And I was living back east at the time, and I would have gone to Catholic University if I didn't do that, which had a great theater program. And then from there, I probably would have gone to, excuse me,
Bless you.
I would have gone to New York. But because UCLA worked out and I got into their theater department, I went there. And primarily, UCLA is not LA itself is not a theater town. It's a movie town. It's a TV town. Things were filming a lot when I graduated in 80. I graduated in 86, and I got my SAG card says January of 89. So a lot more filming is done in LA, and a lot more theater at that time was done in New York. There is still way more theater in New York than there is in LA. There is in LA, but it's just not the same. So that's basically why I got into film, was because LA is a film town. If I was in New York, I probably would have gotten in more theater first, and then maybe eventually landed in film. But yeah, that was kind of the reason, due to economics and geography, really.
Very cool. And it's like I've heard that you know, not being from LA, the acting crowd that goes to New York first always ends up going to LA in the end.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it was hard because being a New York actor at that time, there's a difference. People see New York trained actors as, deeper and have a much more um, skilled background. They've probably done Shakespeare in the Park, or summer stock, and they're looked at as more seasoned. But luckily, I came out of the Groundling Theater, which is kind of LA's version of Second City. I mean, Will Ferrell, Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig. I was in it with Lisa Kudrow. I mean, tons of people came out of there, and that was comedy, sketch comedy. Elvira, Pee Wee Herman. I mean, so um, it was respected for comedy, and that's what I kind of started out in. But luckily, I did drama, and oddly enough, I've probably done more dramas than comedies, which is strange.
Right, right. I mean, me, I just graduated here at Point Park for screenwriting,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
thank you, thank you. It's official August 1st. Finished my last class of the summer, and I'm officially done. So hopefully, not before too long, the fishbowl will be out in the L.A. area.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Um, but I guess my first question would be your work on The People Under the Stairs, especially getting to work with the late great Wes Craven on probably one of his most intense uh, films of his career. I mean, yeah,
Underrated.
underrated exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a normal audition. People say, "How did you choose horror?" You don't choose a lot of stuff when you're just starting out as an actor. You go on all auditions, and you're not really at the place to say, "I don't want to go on this one." You could, but it's not very wise. So I went to um, this audition for People Under the Stairs. I went to my coach, which I always did. I got coaching for the part. We really found the humanity in Roach. And then I went to Wes's office, and it was, crawling around the floor, peeking behind chairs, laughing, scurrying around, crying when I died, giving it a full thing. I mean, it's very weird to crawl around in a little tank top around somebody's office, but and that's how I got the part, and that changed my life because it made it possible for me to quit waiting tables. So that was really fun, but scary too, because now you can't say, "Oh, if I didn't have to wait tables," well, now I didn't have to, and now you have to, put up or shut up, kind of thing.
Right.
So, and it couldn't have been a better set. It was so he's just so mellow, so nice, was so nurturing. He wanted all the actors to feel comfortable. He wanted the actors to do real acting work. Not, we weren't doing some kind of a campy style or over the top or. So it was fantastic. It was great to to work with him and to let him kind of just make us feel as comfortable as possible. And he really, really cared about our acting and the way, we lived it truthfully. So that was the best part. And I had no lines. So that's great too. I didn't have to worry about memorizing lines either. So, but I put in this prosthetic tongue the whole time so I couldn't actually talk, even if I talked. So I would talk, but it wouldn't really matter. But, the crew was great. He was great. It was one of the best experiences I ever had. I mean, it was the perfect first movie. Like I said, it was a lead part, but I didn't have to worry about lines, and I just had to worry about being this character, and getting the emotional parts down and genuine, which was great. And that's what he wanted. He didn't want anyone to be false. He cast people who cared about acting. And I think he saw that because I went to my coach and I really tried to, Roach could have auditioned and just scream and scream and scream and giggle and scream.
Right.
But I knew there was more to that. He had to be wily and he had to be smart because he got out of the basement.
Exactly.
So we knew that when we worked on it before we went in there. And you can't play that. You just have to kind of be that. And I
Right.
had a great coach who really helped me find all that. And how, when I died, I don't know I'm dying and I don't know I'm being a martyr, but I am. I'm just trying to help him out before I die. So it was fun. And Wes completely supported all of that.
That's just so awesome to hear because like the main genres I like to write in are horror sci-fi,
Hmm.
and I do like black comedy and dramas and
Yeah.
thrillers as well. But like my expertise goes into horror sci-fi, and if we ever met and people my friends would tell you that like I'm like a movie encyclopedia in general, but when it comes to horror sci-fi, it's like that
Right.
is my expertise. And my two biggest inspirations as far as my writing goes are, definitely John Carpenter and Wes Craven.
Yeah.
And, like I just bought The People Under the Stairs, the Scream Factory collector's edition on Blu-ray, and first of all, the artwork on the cover looks awesome. I love all the reissuings that they're doing of the '80s and '90s
Yeah,
horror movies.
got
But
really good job.
it just, he knew how to capture, an element of fear that, not every other, director that came to, that put his mark on the screen exactly knew how to do as well.
Right.
And, Carpenter and him just really knew what they were doing. And, the People Under the Stairs is definitely one of my top favorite Wes Craven films, especially of the '90s.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a, everyone says, "Oh, is it scary? Is it this? Is that?" And I go, you know what? It's very um, twisted. To me, it's more twisted. It's not
Right,
terrifying, and there's a happy ending, and he gets out and saves them, and that's not normal at all. So, um, and it was dark, weird, twisted comedy.
right,
Within this very strange, the way they played mommy and daddy was not something that you go to, a lot of people say, "Oh, it scared the crap out of me." And it's just, I don't think it's that scary. I think it's just twisted and strange.
right. It's definitely more of a thriller than it is a
That's a
horror
good
movie.
point. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, I mean, literally, it is the hero's journey. It's fool's journey. You know,
Right,
it's not like the teenagers screwing at the camp and then one by one getting picked off. You know what I mean?
right, right.
It's the hero's journey, and it has you know a point to the to save the damsel in distress. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
So it is more of a classic storyline than your classic horror. You know.
exactly. Well, since we're on the subject of dark and twisted shit in a sense, um, I'd like to talk to you about, even though it was a short cameo type role,
Uh-huh.
um, you did get to work with Tim Burton on
Yes.
probably what I consider his best Batman film. I mean, Batman was awesome. I mean, Jack Nicholson's was amazing as the Joker, but Batman Returns is really where it's at. And even though it was like again a short role,
Yeah, I mean, I'm throughout the movie, but I was the touchstone. He said, "You're the
right,
touchstone in the city," because you've got the newspaper.
right,
That was fantastic. I remember I was on a vacation. It's interesting. No one asked me about this movie, so I'm glad you did because it's. I was on vacation back east in a Mowsam Lake, Maine, in a little cabin with my family, and I got a call from my agent who said Tim Burton wants to meet you. And I was like, "Holy crap!" And then they said he wants to meet you Wednesday. Well, it was Monday night. We were having lobster and hanging out, and I said, "Okay." So I had to figure out. I don't even remember how I did it, but I got back to LA and I met him, and he wanted me to try out for one of the clowns, the mean clowns that work with the Penguin. And I remember him sitting there and me being, I mean, God, I'd never do this again, but I was trying to be an evil clown and be really menacing. And he was sitting in a chair. He wasn't sitting behind a desk or a table or anything. And I walked right up to him and got in his face and kind of made this evil speech. And he liked it. So he obviously put me in the paperboy role. I remember the first day I was shooting, it was very that whole set, that Gotham set, was on a soundstage, and it was 32 degrees in the middle of August. So you'd be walking in, 100-degree heat, and you'd walk through, those refrigerator type plastic things that you do when you go into walk-in freezers.
right,
Walk through three of those, and then all of a sudden you're in this this town square in Gotham, and you're breathing out smoke because it's 32 degrees. So it was crazy. And then I remember the day I started shooting my lines for the opening scene, it was very crowded. and in the front were these Warner Brothers suits, and Tim was nowhere to be seen. He was at the camera at the Video Village, which is where they watch the playback, and I couldn't see him, and that was hard for me because I wanted to be able to see him, and for some reason I kept on jumbling up my lines, and I started to get a little nervous, and then the Warner Brothers executives, I could see them like look at their watches, shake their heads, because every minute on that set was probably $1,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Tim came over and he goes, "Yeah, you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You know what? This line doesn't make a lot of sense as written." And he goes, "Well written lines are easy to say, but this is kind of awkward. So why don't you just say this?" And I go, "Oh, okay." And all of a sudden I was fine because I was so new. I didn't know you could say that, I was trying to memorize the exact words, and they were awkwardly written in a way no one would speak naturally, So that's why I was messing them up. And then right after that, the guy who played Alfred walked in, and he started screwing up his lines. So Tim came over and he goes, like, "What's it about this 5 square foot radius right here that everyone keeps going up on their lines?" And we all laughed, and we got through it, and we got through it just fine. And we did other scenes, and I remember Tim saying, "I want to keep you on hold because I think we may come back to you." And I said, "Okay." So I was done in like mid-October, and they held me, and I got a paycheck from Warner Brothers every week for till end of February. Every week for 16, 12 weeks or something. And I could go do other movies and everything, but I was being paid by Batman and not working. And so at the end of the movie, there was a wrap party. And Tim was standing out front, and I walked in, and he saw me, and he goes, "Oh, it's Sean Whalen. The reason the accounting department at Warner Brothers hates me." Because they paid all this money for a guy who only worked, a week, and instead of the 16 that I got paid for. So it was really great. He was so chill and so nice. He was very, very same thing. I mean, the bigger the director, the chiller they are. Clint Eastwood, Tom Hanks. I mean, just uh, I've never experienced jerky directors when I worked on big film. Well, Jan de Bont was a little insane for Twister. That's true. But he came from being a DP, so
Well, Twister is one of the films I wanted to ask you about,
uh-huh.
but I have one more. Well, actually, I guess it will be like a double question.
Yeah.
That with two films you worked on with
Okay.
a mutual actress, and
Okay.
that is Drew Barrymore.
Yes.
The first film is Doppelganger, and leading into Never Been Kissed,
And then the
and then
third film,
Charlie's Angels.
Angels. Yeah. So I guess she had a picture of me in her office, a headshot of me, which I must have given because I tried out for Steve Buscemi's part in The Wedding Singer as the drunk brother. And I know I did a great job, but he was again a New York trained actor, and he had
Right.
some success in a few things at the time. Um, and I've never said this out loud, and I think he's one of the greatest actors ever. But I think I was funnier when I did it. I saw him do it in the film, and I was like, "Nah, it's funnier." But oh well. But so she had a picture of me in her office, and my ex-wife had some delivery. She worked at a production company on Fox, and she said, "Did you know your picture's up at Drew Barrymore's office?" And I said, "No." So I sent milk and cookies over to them, to their office, and just said, "Hey, I just want to say hello. My name is Sean Whalen, blah, blah, blah." So right then, Nancy Jerome and her partner, who is now married to Jimmy Fallon at Flower Films, called me up, and we had this amazing conversation. I drove over that day. We sat in her office. We had the best time. We had a great bond. And then I remember walking out of the office, and Drew was there, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're here." And I gave her a big hug, and we chatted. And They talked about Never Been Kissed, and it was their first movie they were doing, and they let me completely write. It was only one line, but they let me write and improvise my entire part. It was fantastic. Um, and that was really great. And because of that, they said, you can do anything you want at Charlie's Angels. We have two parts for you. And I got to work with LL Cool J on that, which was really, really fun. But they were just fantastic to work with. Doppelganger, I was in and out. I never saw her. It was a very small part. And, it just was a small part I got, and it happened to be Drew Barrymore was in it. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right,
So that really wasn't. But Charlie's Angels and Never Been Kissed were ones that they were very involved in letting me figure out stuff creatively. So it was great. I got to really create both of those characters because they allowed me the freedom to write and, kind of come up with my own character. And in Never Been Kissed, it went from one line to getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was, had a through line throughout the whole film. And that was easily that Never Been Kissed and and People Under the Stairs were two of my most favorite acting experiences. I love Twister because of the experience being there with all those great people. I got to hang out with Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was amazing and fun, and Jeremy Davies and Alan Ruck, and being a part of an epic movie where Spielberg is executive producing, and
right, right,
flew into town on Sundays on his private jet to talk to the director, and Kathleen got to work with Kathleen Kennedy, and so it was really, really fun. It's just very long, very arduous, and you're in the middle of nowhere, kind of. It was a small town called Ponca City, Oklahoma, and when you're used to Los Angeles, really good food and going to see any movie you want, or going to a museum and stuff, it gets pretty old quick. But luckily, I was working, and you would just hang out most days, and it was it was like 5.5 months. So there were some great experiences. I got to go up to Iowa, Ames, Iowa, where my friend was going to school, one of my best friends. So he got to hang out on the set of Twister with Phil and those guys. I mean, it was a really fun experience. It's just acting wise, I didn't get a lot to do.
right.
And I realized I like having a lot to do. It's fun. So, but it was a blast in terms of it was like summer camp, but it was summer camp that probably went on like a month too long because you were over it. But it was so cool to be a part of. You know, it was so neat. They had such a huge, huge camp. It was unbelievable, and we'd ride all over the state looking for storms because they wanted to film when it was stormy.
Right.
So it was like a traveling circus. It was amazing. The amount of trucks and things that we had was wild.
I remember going to see Twister in theaters when I was a little kid,
Uh
and
huh.
it was one of the it was like one of the coolest marks of like the '90s, like because I was born in 1988, and I like to think that it's a great year because you're like at the tail end of when movies are pretty much at their peak, and not just like horror, sci-fi. It's just in everything, comedy. I mean, the '80s were just like really where it was at, and the '90s were great too because you had the whole music scene, both
Yep.
with rap and rock, and
Yep.
you
Don't worry.
still
I mean, the
had
'70s were great for movies too.
right. The '70s were great also. The '70s kind of led into the '80s,
Yeah.
which led into the '90s, and we
I
kind
forget that when in the '80s, once you had ET,
right,
once you had ET and Close Encounters, it started in the '70s with Jaws. You had event movies.
right,
Spielberg kind of created the event movie.
right,
You
and
know,
of course Star Wars.
yeah, Star Wars, of course. But I mean, in the '70s, it was all about the great acting, like Godfather and
Right.
all those great movies.
Right, because like like the '50s and '60s were really like up until like the
Late
mid
'60s when they
'60s,
start.
it was about epics.
When they did, yeah, when they started to do The Graduate and
Right,
Bonnie and Clyde and things like that. I think Bonnie and Clyde was actually '70s, but um, yeah, I agree. But then when it became, you had your popcorn movies, Jurassic Park and
right,
things like that we never had before. Big tentpole movies that on a more consistent basis. I think people thought, Jaws was a whatever it was, and The Exorcist was whatever it was. But now they were making them to be huge summer releases. Back to the Future, I'll never forget. The huge
Right.
billboard of the thing counting backwards.
I actually
It's
this last weekend I met Christopher Lloyd at
fantastic.
Pittsburgh's Steel City Con, and I'm gonna try and get him on the show as well. But my actually my first legit memory is being in a movie theater watching Back to the Future Part Three,
Wow.
and my sister actually got her name Jessica from me breaking the VHS on Who Framed Roger Rabbit because I watched it so many times. So Jessica Rabbit.
That's so
That's how my sister. Yeah.
that's funny. That's awesome.
um, but I have a few more questions.
Sure.
A few more films that actually I have a long list. We're definitely not going to get to all of them. Um, but
Well,
a few I would like to get to was well again it was a small role, but probably one of my top favorite Jim Carrey movies,
uh-huh.
The Cable Guy.
Oh yeah, that's one of my. I thought it was hands down his best movie to date.
I kind of agree with that.
I think it was so bold, and it was it's Judd Apatow. Now that we know Judd Apatow, now
Right,
it was Judd Apatow and Ben Stiller,
right.
and that's a great comedy. I loved his character. I thought it was awesome. I thought the film was awesome. I know that people, kind of, I guess, they rejected it because they said, oh, he's being dark. He's not being fun. He's not being, and I thought, well, good for him.
That's
You
what I
know,
said.
what's he supposed to do? He can't do the mask
Right,
5 or 6. And
right.
I was just talking with someone yesterday that someone had said early on when I was thinner, they said, you would have been a great Joker. And I said, yeah, I think I would have been a great Joker. I would love to play that part. But I think Jim Carrey killed it. I mean, that was a terrible movie, but he was awesome in it.
But
You know?
he was the Riddler.
Yeah, he was the Riddler. Oh, did I
Right.
say Joker?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you said Joker.
yeah. Oh, Riddler. Yes, the Riddler. Yeah,
I thought he killed it as the
yeah.
Riddler.
Me too. I thought he was fantastic. I thought that's exactly what it needed to be, and I think he really, really nailed it. Just unfortunate that Would you have liked to see him do that in a Christopher Nolan Batman? Yes. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
But anyway, yeah, that was really really fun, and the deal with that was they were looking for improvisational people for the party scene, and they booked us for like 5 days, and we wanted to. Ben said, "I want you people to improvise." So it was that weekend that it came out that Jim Carrey was getting $20 million for Cable Guy. And that was insanity. Like, it's over. The business is over. They're paying $20 million to somebody. It makes no sense. Everyone was freaked out. So, to calm down, the board of directors, I think it was Sony, cut this filming down, cut like several days off the filming. So we got in there, and Ben Stiller came up to the group that was hired as improvisers, and said, "We can't do what we thought we could do. We were going to pick up some cool characters, some cool dialogue, stuff like that." He goes, "I just need you to be in the front, to be faces." And he goes, "I'm sorry to say, you're going to be basically extras." And a lot of people said, "Nope, put me in the back. I don't want to be seen as an extra." And I was kind of in the middle of the group or towards the end of the group, and he looked at me and I said, and I had met him through Drew Barrymore and stuff, and I said, "I'll help you out, bro." And so he really featured me, and I was an extra. I mean, I don't have any lines, I'm an extra. So, but I thought, you know what? I'm sitting in the front row, and I get to see Jim Carrey do some amazing shit when he sang the karaoke. you know? And I thought, I want to see this. I want to see what he does, because I was not a fan of his on In Living Color. I thought it was too much and it was insane. And then, a friend of mine said, "You need to go see this movie." You know, the Pet Detective movie with
Ace Ventura.
Ventura. He's like, "You got to go see what this guy's doing. It's insane." And I saw it and I was like, "Holy crap!" And it didn't really work for me too much until I saw like Liar Liar, and I really appreciated him in that. And then when I saw this, I thought, okay, Cable Guy loved it. I thought it was great. And so it was really fun to be there, and I made some really good friends. But it was disappointing. It was supposed to be a really cool scene, with us party goers being, the whole idea was to show his weird friends. Period.
Right.
And it was a really fun experience. But I took away from it that it was great to see those people, and I got my first stalker out of it. Some woman who worked on the set had to get a restraining order, and the cops came after her, so that was weird.
Wow.
But besides that, it was cool to watch him work, and I really liked working with Ben. So, you know,
Do you
one of
still?
the,
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna just ask. Do you still keep in touch with Ben and Drew?
Uh, Ben and Drew, not Ben, but I keep in touch with Nancy Javonen, and I haven't spoken with Drew in a while. But I just read for a new TV show, and they said, "Oh, we really like him. We're gonna, keep in mind for a future part." So we'll see. You know,
That's
I haven't
awesome.
seen her in a while, but I mean, just like any friend, you just kind of drift. You get busy, and she
Right.
moves to New York, and so
That's awesome. Well, I have. Uh, let's see. I can probably do three. I'll do these last four. See where
oh,
that goes.
all right, skip.
Because they're big ones. Um, you mentioned getting to work with Tom Hanks earlier, and one of the films I actually wanted to ask you about was That Thing You Do.
hmm Again, that was just an audition. It was great. I walked in and I got to do. He gave me a few parts to read. The only thing that was weird, he could get his face behind the paper, a paper, while I was reading, and I didn't know what was going on, but I went for it. And when he pulled on the paper, he was howling laughing, and that was awesome. So I got to be in the film, which was really really nice. It was great. So um, it was his first directing time, and he surrounded us up with really good people, and that was really fun because I really had a blast with Giovanni Ribisi and Steve Zahn. We all Steve Zahn, Giovanni Ribisi, and myself hung out a lot, and we had the best time. It was a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. Um, Tom was really nice. I remember like the wrap party. He sat with Steve Zahn, his wife, me, and my ex-wife, and it was great. I mean, it was a good experience. He was just learning how to direct, so sometimes he would do things that were surprising to me, kind of giving line readings and things like that. But for the most part, he, let us come up with what we were doing and really, play and have fun. But you could tell he was itching to act. And another underrated performance, I think that was one of his best performances as well. I loved him as that manager. I think that's one of his best roles.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I just think people never, there's always the roles that people just overlook. Tom Cruise in Rain Man was the best he's ever been because it's
Right.
hard as crap to play against Dustin Hoffman.
Right.
And he held his own, and it was awesome, you know. But he was cast perfectly, And I thought Tom Hanks as that manager, I thought he was phenomenal. He wasn't Mr. Nice Guy, which was nice, and you wouldn't think of him as perfectly cast for that role. But then when you saw it, you go, oh yeah, he is perfect.
Right.
It was great. I thought he did a fantastic job. So that was a nice experience. Yeah, I loved it.
Awesome. Um, the last, I'm just going to throw it into a three question, one question, so
Yeah.
we can get it all out there in one long bit. Um, the last three films I want to ask you about were Suicide Kings, Men in Black, and Idle Hands.
Okay, so Suicide Kings was just like one of those normal auditions. Um, Not very eventful, in terms of career. Because I it was just an audition. I went in there, but what was cool about it, once again, is he really let me come up with that character, and it was my idea to do the crying thing, like I did that in the audition, and that was really fun. But I didn't get to see many people. It's not like I hung out with Chris Walken, or I didn't get to interact
Right.
because it was one day, it was one scene, you know. Um, but people love that character in that movie, and I was great because I got to be a total prick because it was perfect for me. They wrote it as this menacing, they're talking about the Widowmaker, and oh my god, and it turns out I'm just a little young prick, you know,
Right.
and that was a blast to play. But I just remember one day in this hot ass casino in LA, and they loved what I did, and that was it. And I kind of left. So that one was fun to do creatively. And then what was the other movie?
Men in Black and Idle Hands.
Okay, so Men in Black was after I had done the Aaron Burr milk commercial. The Got Milk commercial
Right.
where
Right.
Alexander Hamilton. I was like, Aaron Burr. Well, Spielberg. So a person who worked with me said Spielberg loves you. He loves you because he loves that commercial and thinks you're great. So I said, okay. And so he had me, I got in Twister because of that, you know. He used to cast up and coming people, He cast Vince Vaughn after Swingers, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was his MO. He never used to work with stars, but then he had started to have to, you know. Um, then he, then there was this amazing part called Dave in Men in Black. It was Tommy Lee Jones' assistant, and he was always tired, but he would move in really fast. Like Tommy Lee Jones would start pouring a cup of coffee, and Will Smith would go whoa, 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 and all of a sudden I'd go zzz, and I'd fly in the frame, and I'd be holding a cup. I'd be, hi sir, how are you? And he's like, hey, how are you, Dave? And I go, I'm fine, and I would zip out of frame, and it would. So they wrote me in, got the contract. Everybody literally at the table was like, he's my favorite character. I love that character. It's so great. And we closed the deal on a Friday, and on Monday morning we got a call and said it was written out. And so people will always say, "Oh, we know Sean from Men in Black," and I always say, "No, you don't," because I'm like, just same thing. The accounting department said we can't do a deal. We're not going to pay him all this money and not use him. At least justify that we used him. So they put me in this tiny role behind the counter for 2 seconds. It was the biggest heartbreak I think I've ever had in my career because it was a career making part. It would have made a huge, it was a big part in the movie. It had a great career. It had a great arc. It was funny but poignant. Also, it had great scenes with Tommy Lee Jones. And to have it written out was really tough because literally everybody was like, that's my favorite character. So the good news was I got to be, I get the residuals based on the part I was supposed to get,
Right.
I would have paid, I would have done it for nothing if I was able to do that part that they wrote because it was such a great character. And it was really tough that they wrote it out. So it kind of sucked. Because then after that, I saw what happened to people when you were a good part in a big film, and that was the thing. I had a lot of good parts, but they weren't huge films. Never Been Kissed was not a huge film. Neither was That Thing You Do. Neither one of them opened up in the top two in box office. They stick around over time, which is great, but they weren't huge. If they were either one of those were huge box office hits, it would have helped me a lot. At the time. And I don't mean to complain because I thought I was working and it was great, but that part was a tough part to lose because it was one of those ones that you read and go, "Wow, I'm perfect for it, and I can't wait to do it." You know what I mean?
Right.
So Men in Black was, and I sat in the trailer with Will for a few minutes, and we had a nice chat, and it was fine. But it was, tough to be there to be a glorified extra again. Knowing that you were supposed to have this really big part. So, uh, and it's funny because I know sometimes my manager goes, "Yeah, I know you from Men in Black." I'm like, "No, you don't. I don't know anyone who know." And anyone who says that, I go, "Who was I?" And they always go, "You're the guy in the pawn shop." And I go, "No, that's Tony Shalhoub. That's not me." You know.
Right.
But like I said, it was super cool to be on that set. It was super cool to see. I was in the main Men in Black thing. It was really, really cool. Like the set was amazing, and being around Rick Baker and all that stuff was awesome. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, how can you really complain?
Right.
You're still on the set, and you got to see Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith work, and it was very, very cool for that thing. But as an actor, you go, I wish I would have had a bigger part. But look, you just have to stick it out. And now these young filmmakers who grew up with me in the '90s want to work with me now, and it's great. I love it. I'm very grateful. And it doesn't mean that much because even if I did get that part, it could have bought me a few extra years of big movies. But it only buys you a little bit of time until your next thing. That's the way this business works. You're only as good as the next thing you're on.
Right.
So, but it's exciting that People Under the Stairs is its 25th year anniversary. That's exciting.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
my first. That was my first movie. And it's exciting to see people be excited about that. So, it's very cool. It's very cool. What was the last one you asked about?
Idle Hands.
Idle Hands was really fun too. It was in that period when I was working a lot in those kind of movies. But now, like those movies aren't made anymore. You know, Studios don't make moderate budget movies. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They make huge movies now. I just heard Jonah Hill talking about this yesterday on Howard Stern. They just don't make these movies anymore. Um, and I loved the script, and I knew Seth Green really well. He was a friend of my ex-wife's best friend, and I'd met him several times. And uh, so it was really cool. It was a fun movie. I got to work with Nick Sadler, who was on Twister with me. We were the two cops. Um, and I remember the director was really nice and he was excited to have me there. And I remember that I liked the script so much that there was a couple elements I thought could have done a lot better, you know, personally. But um, I thought the lead was an interesting choice casting wise. Devon Sawa was fine, but I thought it would be a different type of guy, some with more comedic chops to do the comedy because Seth Green and that other guy was so funny.
Right. Right.
And I thought the lead guy should have been more of a comedian, you know. Um, but he did a good job, and it was really fun. It was fun. I got to get fried up, and you know. Um, but sometimes when you talk about these kind of movies, they weren't seminal. They were good jobs, and I enjoyed them. But I don't remember like life changing because I was just working. You know, that's what people don't understand. Sometimes it's just you're working. You go, oh, I went to that audition, I got the part. Now I'm just on that set. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Some,
definitely.
some you feel like Twister, and obviously Cable Guy, and obviously Men in Black, and obviously you go, wow, this is outrageous. And some you're just working and think, oh, I hope it does okay. And People Under the Stairs was just, I was like, oh, I'm just really glad this is my first movie, and Wes is so nice. But we were number one for 6 weeks, and people still love it 25 years later. So you never know that. So it's I always say to people when they ask me about this and that, I go, you know what? I'm a guy that has a weird job. that I lose after a week or 3 or 2, and then I have to go out and try to find another job. You know what I mean? When we go to these auditions. It's just a weird job. It's just part of our job. And so, you do I mean, look, if you were a traveling nurse, you would go to different state because that's a big thing now. You would go and you would say, "Oh, this state and that state, and when I worked at that hospital, I really remember these kind of things." And then some I'd go, "Oh, it was kind of a fun gig." But now that I've been in it for a long time, and now I'm starting to do more of these interviews because people see, people on the stairs 25 years and stuff. You do look back and go, "Wow, I'm pretty lucky." I was met Miley Cyrus when she was Hannah Montana. I was on the fifth episode of Friends before it was Friends. It was called Friends at Last. I got to work with Bill Cosby when he wasn't hated by America. And I got to work with Ang Lee and Tim Burton and Drew Barrymore and Tom. It's as you get. I'm a teacher now, and I'm teaching at James Franco's school, and seeing young actors and being able to help them out, you go, wow, I know a lot. I've done a lot. And my friend Scott Gimple, kind of to wrap it up in a way, is that he was the one who said, "You're a character actor." And Scott Gimple runs The Walking Dead. And we known each other for 15, 17 years. We all started out writing at Disney cartoons, punching up scripts and things. And he went on to be a writer. And he just said, "You're so lucky because you get to do it all. As a character actor, you literally get to do everything." Like this week, I was in New York shooting a romantic comedy. And yesterday, I shot Ugly Sweater Party, which is a dark horror movie where I'm like the Freddy Krueger character.
Oh,
And
that's
it's
awesome.
like, how awesome is that?
Right.
That I get to do everything, and so it is. You then that's when you start to go to conventions and people come up to you and talk to you. You go, "Wow, I didn't know my job is one that reaches people." It's not like I'm in a pharmacy or whatever, or even a pharmacist works with his patient. But I come into your living room and I've been in the theaters you've been at, But we don't see it that way. We just go to work and try to do the best work we can and go home. You know what I mean? You don't sit there and go, "I've reached 1,000 people." You can't. But the one time that it really meant something to me is I went and I was getting a massage. I was on a boat. It was for my ex mother in law had a cruise, and I was getting a massage, and there was this young woman who was giving me a massage who was from South Africa, and she said, "Oh my God, my friends would be so excited they met you because they love Never Been Kissed and People Under the Stairs." And I went, "South Africa? Holy crap!" You know what I mean? Like I was
Right.
like,
Right.
"Crap!" And I think I said, "You know what? I wanted to leave Maryland and make an impact, and I did." You know, maybe, of course, would I have loved to have been like a lead in a ton of movies, or would I like to have had a series that ran for years? Sure, but I made an impact anyway. And
Exactly.
that's kind of you have to. That's what I think coming to terms with what it means to the fans now when you go to conventions and you're on Facebook and stuff like that. You realize you actually did reach people, and you don't realize it at the time. So it's a weird job, but I guess, it gets seen by everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you something. I met you a few years back at Pittsburgh's Horror Realm convention,
Okay.
and we actually have a mutual friend in common who you worked with on a film that was shot here, Clifford Lynch.
Okay. Yeah.
It was I forget the film. I'm sorry. It was a low budget horror film,
Okay.
and he actually told me to get in touch with you a while back when I was doing my radio show,
Okay.
which wasn't really going anywhere because it was like CCAC radio. And now that like I'm doing the Fishbowl, I you've been one of the guests that I've wanted to get on for a very long time now. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm very happy to have you on the show, and I just want to say it's been a pleasure
Yeah.
talking with you. And I usually do like two wraparound questions, which is,
Sure.
what are some of your favorite films, and what or do you, if you have any upcoming projects to promote, which you kind of already did for me, anyways. But
I have there's some that are in independent hell, which is they're good and they're trying to find distribution. One is called Veliska, which is a horror movie. I just did this thing, Ugly Sweater Party, which is great. I just did this romantic comedy called Rich Boy, Rich Girl. Um, I'm recurring on NBC Superstore. Don't know when they're going to bring me. They had me set for a couple, and then they script changes, and so they're thinking of me, and so I'll be back doing that. Um, and I'm teaching. I still teach. I do want to say that anyone who anybody who mentions the fishbowl will get $5 off of anything I sell.
there you go, there you
Photo,
go.
a photo, or my T-shirt, or anything. If you mention the fishbowl when you personal message me, I will take $5 off.
There you go, Fishbowl listeners.
Yes, fishbowl listeners. So get in touch with me. And if you want an autographed picture or t-shirt or something like that. And then upcoming, I'm going to be at Scarefest back east in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm going to be in London, Ontario for, gosh, I forget what it's called. I forget the name of the con, but that's in September as well. And then I'm going to be in Biloxi, Mississippi for Fear Feet. And Scarefest and Fear Feet, I'm going to be with Jan Birch and Brandon Adams celebrating the 25th anniversary of People Under the Stairs. So, and we're also going to have Kristen Minter too, as well. So for the first time, all four of us are going to be there. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so it's a fun year. It's 20-year anniversary of Twister and 25-year anniversary of People Under the Stairs. So, when you look at it that way, I'm very lucky. I feel really lucky to be able to do this crazy job, but I love teaching. And if anyone ever wants coaching, I do Skype coaching for acting. So you can get.
I'll let my two buddies know because they're actually actors. My one friend got to work with Denzel Washington when he was
Oh,
here
fantastic!
filming Fences,
Got it.
and my other buddy is just kind of breaking into the scene. He's starting to get some more mate not quite protagonist roles, but definitely
Right.
main characters in plays
Oh,
that are going on here. So
well,
they
hey,
will.
there's anyone who like I said, you can reach me through my Facebook page, Sean Whalen, or you can go to my That Guy Sean Whalen page, and that's you just like that, and you can send me a message through there. But yeah, you're gonna have some special stuff coming up on sale from People Under the Stairs 25th anniversary, because we're coming on the actual date that it was released. So that's gonna be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Sam.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and I there's still a lot I would love to talk to you about.
Sure.
So at a future point, I would love to get you on the show again and come
Well,
swim in
hopefully,
the
when
bowl.
these independents are coming out and I get to promote it, we can figure something out.
Awesome. That sounds like a plan.
Well, thank you so much. I had a great time.
Absolutely.
I hope I didn't come off sounding like the pretentious actor, but
Not at all. Not at all.
all right. Well, thank you very much, and let me know when it's going to be up online so I can promote it.
I definitely will.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for swimming in the bowl.
I loved it. Now we've got to go grab a towel. All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
Talk later. Bye.
Bye.